The moment my wife delivered her joke at the graduation dinner, I knew our marriage was over. Not because of the laughter that followed, though it stung like a slap, but because of the calculated cruelty in her eyes as she said it. "Meet my husband, everyone," Samantha announced, raising her champagne glass toward me across the crowded restaurant table. "He's the reason I worked so hard in law school. I had to become smart enough for both of us." The table erupted. Her classmates, professors, even the waiter hovering nearby with the dessert cart. Everyone thought it was hilarious. Everyone except me, sitting there in my discount suit, the one I'd bought specifically for this dinner celebrating her graduation. The graduation I'd paid for by working double shifts at the boxing gym I owned downtown. I forced a smile, the kind you learn when you've taken too many hits to the face. But inside, something shifted. Something that had been holding our marriage together for 15 years just snapped. "That's my Sam," I said, lifting my own glass. "Always the comedian. You know what they say about lawyers and jokes, right? The difference is, lawyers charge by the hour for theirs." A few polite chuckles. Samantha's smile tightened at the edges. "Well," she continued, undeterred, "at least now I can afford better material than what I get at home." More laughter. Louder this time. I watched her friend Claire lean over and whisper something that made Samantha glow with satisfaction. Nathan, the young associate from her firm who'd somehow earned an invitation to our family celebration, was practically doubled over. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The sound cut through the laughter like a knife. "You know what, Sam? You're absolutely right. You are smart enough for both of us now. Smart enough to handle the mortgage payments, the car insurance, your student loans, all of it. Congratulations on your independence." I dropped my napkin on the table and walked toward the exit, ignoring Samantha's sharp call of my name. The maitre d' gave me a sympathetic nod as I passed. Even he could sense what had just happened. Outside, the October air bit at my face. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, watching through the restaurant's windows as the celebration continued without me. They'd already forgotten I existed. Samantha was holding court, probably explaining to everyone what a burden I'd been, how much better her life would be now that she had her law degree. When she finally came out, Nathan was with her. They stood by the valet stand, her hand on his arm as they waited for her car. She threw her head back, laughing at something he said. The same laugh I used to love, back when it was genuine, back when it was for me. That's when I made my decision. If Samantha wanted to play games, if she wanted to treat our marriage like a comedy routine, then fine. But she was about to learn that I could be funny too. And my punchlines had a bite. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The next morning, Samantha was gone before I woke up. No surprise there. She'd been leaving early and coming home late for months. I used to think it was just the pressure of finishing law school. Now I understood it was something else entirely. I made coffee and sat at our kitchen island staring at the framed photo of our wedding day. 15 years ago, we'd looked so happy, so naive. I was 23, she was 21, both of us convinced we could conquer the world together. I'd just opened my gym with money borrowed from her father. She was starting her bachelor's degree, planning to go straight through to law school. "We'll be a power couple," she'd said back then. "You'll train champions, I'll defend them when they get in trouble." Instead, I'd spent 15 years training weekend warriors and has been fighters while she slowly grew to resent everything about our life. Everything about me. My phone buzzed. A text from Vic, my best friend and the closest thing I had to a brother. "Coffee at Murphy's? Heard last night was rough." Small-town gossip traveled fast. Murphy's Diner was probably buzzing with second-hand accounts of Samantha's performance. I found Vic in our usual booth, already halfway through a stack of pancakes. He looked up as I slid across from him, his weathered face creased with concern. "So," he said, cutting straight to the point like always. "How bad was it?" "Bad enough?" I signaled the waitress for coffee. She basically announced to everyone that I'm an idiot who's been holding her back. In front of the whole table? In front of the whole restaurant. Got a standing ovation. Vic shook his head. "That's cold, even for her. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but I'm done being the punchline." The waitress brought my coffee, and I wrapped my hands around the mug, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. Through the window, I could see the morning rush heading to work. Normal people living normal lives, not dealing with wives who'd turned cruel and calculating. "You could leave," Vic suggested quietly. "Pack up, file papers, start fresh somewhere else." "And let her win? Let her tell everyone I ran away because I couldn't handle a strong woman?" I shook my head. "No," She wants to play games? Fine, but she picked the wrong opponent. Vic raised an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? It means Samantha thinks she's the smart one in this relationship. She's about to find out how wrong she is. I spent the rest of the morning at the gym, working the heavy bag until my knuckles were raw. The rhythm of it helped me think, helped me plan. By the time I locked up for lunch, I knew exactly where to start. Samantha's law firm had a private forum where the associates shared case notes and office gossip. She'd shown it to me once, laughing about some partner's embarrassing moment that had been posted for everyone to see. She'd logged in from my computer, and like most people, she never bothered to log out. It took me 5 minutes to find what I was looking for, her presentation for the Morrison account, scheduled for that afternoon. The biggest client pitch of her career, the one she'd been preparing for weeks. The one that would determine whether she made junior partner. I didn't delete it. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I made some subtle changes. Altered a few key statistics, mixed up some legal precedents, changed the client's name from Morrison to Morimoto in 3 places. Small things that would make her look unprepared and careless. Then I logged out and went home to wait. Samantha came home that evening like a storm front, slamming doors and muttering under her breath. I was in the living room, pretending to watch television, when she stormed in. "Did you touch my computer?" she demanded. "Good evening to you too, dear. How was your day?" "Don't play games with me, Jack. Someone sabotaged my presentation. I looked like an amateur in front of the Morrison team." I muted the TV and turned to face her. "That's terrible. What happened?" "Half my facts were wrong. I called the client by the wrong name, 3 times. Her voice was shaking with rage. It was humiliating. "Sounds like you should have double-checked your work. Isn't that what lawyers do?" She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes narrowing. "You did this." "I've been at the gym all day. Ask Vic. He was there until 6. Besides, I wouldn't know how to sabotage a legal presentation. Remember, I'm not smart enough." For a second, I thought she might actually accuse me outright. But she couldn't prove anything, and we both knew it. Instead, she turned and walked toward the stairs. "This isn't over," she said without looking back. "No," I agreed quietly. "It's not." The next few days passed in cold silence. Samantha left early, came home late, and barely spoke to me when our paths crossed. I could see her watching me, trying to figure out if I was responsible for her disaster. The uncertainty was eating at her. Meanwhile, I was learning things about my wife that I wished I'd discovered years ago, like the fact that she'd been meeting Nathan for coffee every morning before work, or that she'd told her friend Claire I was emotionally unavailable and probably having a midlife crisis, or that she'd opened a separate bank account 3 months ago and had been slowly moving money into it. All of this information came from sources she'd never suspect. The barista at her favorite coffee shop who knew me from the gym, Claire's ex-husband who drank at Vic's bar, and a simple check of our joint credit report that showed the new account. Samantha thought she was being clever, but she'd forgotten something important about me. I'd grown up poor in a rough neighborhood. I'd learned to pay attention, to notice things, to survive by being smarter than people expected. She saw a dumb boxer. I was actually a businessman who'd built a successful gym from nothing and had been managing our finances for 15 years. The real revelation came on Thursday night. I was working late at the gym when I decided to drive by Nathan's apartment, just to see if my suspicions were correct. Sure enough, Samantha's car was in the parking lot. I sat there for 2 hours, watching the lit window on the 3rd floor. When she finally came out, her hair was messed up and her blouse was wrinkled. She stood by her car for a moment, checking her reflection in the window and smoothing down her clothes. That's when I knew for certain that my marriage was over. Not because of the betrayal, I'd suspected that for weeks, but because of how calculated it all was. The separate bank account, the late nights, the public humiliation at dinner. She wasn't having an affair, she was executing an exit strategy. Well, 2 could play that game. The opportunity for my next move came sooner than expected. Samantha's parents were hosting their monthly family dinner, and this time Nathan would be joining us as Samantha's colleague. She'd presented it as a networking opportunity, a chance for Nathan to meet potential clients. I knew better. "You remember Nathan from the graduation dinner," Samantha said as we walked up her parents' driveway. "He's been helping me with some cases." "I'm sure he has," I replied. Her father, Robert, greeted us at the door with his usual hearty handshake and booming voice. "Jack, how's business? Still turning weekend warriors into Rocky Balboa?" "Something like that." I forced a smile. Robert had never quite approved of his daughter marrying a gym owner, though he'd been happy enough to take the loan payments I'd made to him over the years. Nathan was already inside, charming Samantha's mother with stories from the law firm. He looked up as we entered, his face brightening with fake enthusiasm. "Jack, Great to see you again. Samantha's told me so much about your gym. I've been thinking about taking up boxing myself. Have you? I shook his hand, applying just enough pressure to make him wince. It's not for everyone. It takes a certain kind of toughness. I'm sure I could handle it. I'm sure you think you could. Dinner was a carefully orchestrated performance. Nathan and Samantha sat across from me, their conversation peppered with inside jokes and shared references. They were showing off, demonstrating their connection while maintaining plausible deniability. Nathan's been such a mentor, Samantha gushed. He's taught me so much about corporate law. I bet he has, I said, cutting into my steak. What other subjects has he been tutoring you in? The table went quiet. Nathan's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Jack, Samantha's mother said carefully, Nathan's been very helpful with Samantha's career development. Oh, I'm sure he's been developing something. Robert cleared his throat. Perhaps we should talk about something else. Good idea, I agreed. Nathan, tell us about yourself. Are you married? Dating anyone special? I'm currently single, he stammered. Really? That's surprising. A successful young lawyer like yourself? I would have thought you'd have women lining up. Jack, Samantha warned. What? I'm just making conversation, getting to know your colleague better. I turned back to Nathan. So what do you look for in a woman? Intelligence, ambition, availability? Nathan's face was turning red. I value honesty above all else. Honesty? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's interesting. So you'd never say, pursue a married woman? Because that would be dishonest, wouldn't it? Of course not, he said quickly. Good to know, because if someone was stupid enough to try something like that, well... I leaned back in my chair, my smile never wavering. Let's just say I've spent 20 years teaching people what happens when they don't respect boundaries. The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. When we finally left, Nathan practically sprinted to his car. I waited until he was fumbling with his keys before I made my move. Hey, Nathan, I called out. You forgot something. He turned around, confused. What? I held up a small piece of paper. Your parking receipt. From the Marriott downtown. Tuesday night. You dropped it during dinner. His face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. I walked over to his car, noting the expensive paint job and custom wheels. Nice ride. Must have cost more than I make in a year. Look, Jack, I think there's been some misunderstanding. Oh, there's been a misunderstanding, all right. You seem to think I'm stupid, that I don't notice things, that I won't do anything about it. I leaned against his car, my weight making it rock slightly. But here's the thing, Nathan. I'm not as dumb as I look, and I'm definitely not as nice. Are you threatening me? Threatening you? No, I'm educating you. See, you've made a mistake. You've confused patience with weakness. But every patient man has a limit, and you've found mine. I pushed away from his car and started walking back to my truck. Oh, and Nathan, next time you want to steal someone's wife, maybe don't park where the whole neighborhood can see you. As I drove away, I could see him in my rearview mirror, still standing by his car, probably wondering how much I actually knew. The answer was more than enough, but I was just getting started. Over the next week, I watched Nathan's confidence crumble like a house of cards. It started small, a flat tire in the law firm parking lot, a mysteriously canceled reservation at his favorite restaurant, a series of wrong number calls to his office at all hours. Nothing traceable, nothing illegal, just enough to keep him on edge, looking over his shoulder, wondering what would happen next. Meanwhile, I was gathering intelligence. Samantha had grown careless, probably assuming I was too hurt and confused to pay attention. She left her laptop open, took phone calls in the next room, forgot to delete text messages. She was planning something big, and I wanted to know what it was before she pulled the trigger. The answer came from an unexpected source, our 17-year-old daughter, Maddie. Dad, she said one evening, cornering me in the garage where I was working on my truck. Can I ask you something? Sure, kiddo. What's up? Are you and Mom getting divorced? I stopped what I was doing and looked at her. Maddie had inherited her mother's intelligence and my stubborn streak, a dangerous combination. She was too smart to lie to and too persistent to brush off. What makes you ask that? She's been asking me weird questions, like would I rather live in the city or stay here? What do I think about her job? Whether I think you're happy? Maddie sat down on my workbench, swinging her legs. Plus, she's been really interested in my college plans all of a sudden. Wants to know if I'd consider schools closer to her work. And what did you tell her? That I'm not stupid? I know something's going on. She fixed me with a stare that was pure Samantha. So are you? I set down my wrench and really looked at my daughter. When had she gotten so grown up? When had she started seeing through her parents' pretenses? I don't know, Maddie. Your mom and I are going through some things right now. Because of Nathan? My heart stopped. What do you know about Nathan? I'm not blind, Dad. I see how she acts when he calls, and she's been working late a lot more since he started at her firm. Maddie's voice was matter-of-fact, like she was discussing the weather. Plus, Claire's been coming around more, giving Mom advice about taking control of her life and not settling for less than she deserves. Claire said that? Among other things, she thinks you're holding Mom back, that Mom could do better if she wasn't tied down to... Maddie trailed off, looking uncomfortable. To what? To someone who doesn't share her ambitions. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Claire. I should have seen it sooner. She'd been Samantha's college roommate, her maid of honor, her closest friend for 20 years. She'd also been through 2 messy divorces and had a talent for stirring up trouble in other people's relationships. Maddie, I said carefully, has your mom said anything about wanting to move? Change schools, maybe? She mentioned it might be good for my development to experience life in a bigger city, better opportunities, more culture. Maddie rolled her eyes. She's been looking at apartments online, in the city, 1-bedroom places. 1 bedroom, not 2, not 3. She wasn't planning to take Maddie with her. Dad? Maddie's voice was smaller now, more like the little girl she'd been not so long ago. Whatever happens, I want to stay here, with you. This is my home. I pulled her into a hug, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. This wasn't just about me and Samantha anymore. It was about protecting my daughter from the fallout of her mother's choices. Don't worry, kiddo. Whatever your mom decides to do, you'll always have a home here. That night, after Samantha came home from another late meeting, I made my decision. If she wanted to leave, fine. If she wanted to start a new life with Nathan, that was her choice. But she wasn't going to destroy our daughter in the process, and she wasn't going to walk away with everything we'd built together. It was time to stop playing defense. My first target wasn't Samantha or Nathan, it was Claire. Claire worked in HR for a mid-sized insurance company downtown. She was also having an affair with her married boss, a fact I'd learned from her ex-husband during one of his regular drinking sessions at Vic's bar. She'd been using company resources to plan personal trips, padding her expense reports, and generally abusing her position. All I had to do was make sure the right people found out about it. I started by creating an anonymous email account and sending a carefully worded tip to the company's ethics hotline. Nothing dramatic, just a concerned employee reporting suspicious behavior. I included enough specific details to trigger an investigation, but not enough to trace it back to me. Then I waited. It didn't take long. Within 3 days, Claire was called into a meeting with the company's legal department. By the end of the week, she was on administrative leave pending a full investigation. By the following Monday, she was unemployed and facing potential criminal charges. Samantha was devastated. She spent hours on the phone with Claire, offering support and trying to help her find a new job. She also started looking over her own shoulder, wondering if someone was targeting her friend group. It's so unfair, she told me over dinner, one of the few times we'd eaten together in weeks. Claire's worked there for 8 years, 1 anonymous complaint, and they throw her under the bus. Anonymous complaints can be dangerous, I agreed. You never know who might be watching, who might have a grudge. She looked at me sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just that people should be careful about their behavior. You never know what might come back to haunt you. The paranoia was setting in. I could see it in the way she checked her phone constantly, the way she looked around when we were out in public, the way she started closing her laptop whenever I walked into the room. Good. Let her wonder. Let her worry. My next move was more direct. Nathan had a weakness for expensive things, clothes, cars, gadgets. He also had a tendency to brag about his purchases on social media. A little research revealed that he was living well beyond his means, maxing out credit cards to maintain his lifestyle. I anonymously forwarded screenshots of his social media posts to the law firm's managing partners, along with a note questioning how a junior associate could afford such luxuries on his salary. Was he perhaps taking kickbacks from clients? Padding his billable hours? The firm prided itself on its ethical standards. They would have to investigate. Within days, Nathan was called in for a meeting with the partners. His billing records were audited, his client interactions scrutinized, his financial situation examined. While they didn't find evidence of wrongdoing, they did find a young lawyer who was more concerned with appearances than substance. His path to partnership suddenly became much more uncertain. Nathan's having some trouble at work, Samantha mentioned one evening. She was trying to sound casual, but I could hear the worry in her voice. Oh? What kind of trouble? Someone's been spreading rumors about him, questioning his ethics. It's completely unfair. Rumors can be damaging in a profession like law, I said. Reputation is everything. Exactly. And Nathan's reputation is spotless. He's one of the most honest people I know. I almost laughed at that. I'm sure he is. I'm sure you both are. The stress was getting to her. She'd lost weight, had dark circles under her eyes, jumped at unexpected sounds. Her perfect plan was falling apart, and she didn't understand why. But I wasn't done yet, not even close. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday evening. I was at the gym, working with one of my regular clients, when Maddie called. Dad, you need to come home. Now. What's wrong? Mom's packing. She says she's leaving tomorrow. She wants me to come with her. I was in my truck and driving home before she finished the sentence. This was it. Samantha's endgame. She was making her move, probably planning to file for divorce once she was safely established in her new life with Nathan. I found her in our bedroom, throwing clothes into suitcases with frantic energy. Maddie was sitting on the bed, watching with wide eyes. Going somewhere? I asked from the doorway. Samantha spun around, her face flushed with anger and something that might have been relief. We need to talk. I'm listening. Not here, not in front of Maddie. She looked at our daughter. Honey, why don't you go to your room for a while? No, Maddie said firmly. Whatever you're going to say affects me too. I want to hear it. Samantha hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. Fine. Jack, I'm leaving. I've accepted a position with a firm in the city. Better opportunities, better future. For who? For all of us. Maddie can go to better schools, have access to cultural opportunities she'll never get in this town. Maddie doesn't want to leave. Do you, kiddo? No, Maddie said quietly. I want to stay here. She's 17, Samantha snapped. She doesn't know what she wants. She's 17, not 7. She gets a say in her own life. Not when she's making the wrong choice. Samantha's mask was slipping, revealing the cold calculation underneath. This town is a trap, Jack. It's small and narrow and limiting. I won't let her get stuck here like me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I stepped into the room, my presence filling the space. So what's the real plan, Sam? You move to the city, take the new job, start fresh with Nathan? Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. Just like you don't know about the apartment you've been looking at. The one-bedroom apartment, or the separate bank account, or the fact that you've been meeting Nathan for coffee every morning for 3 months. Dad? Maddie's voice was small and hurt. Your mother's been having an affair, kiddo, with Nathan, the colleague she's been helping with cases. That's not, Samantha started. Don't lie to her. She's too smart for that, and she deserves better. I turned back to Samantha. So here's how this is going to work. You want to leave? Fine, leave. But Maddie stays here. This is her home, her school, her friends. You don't get to uproot her life because you've decided to trade up. You can't stop me from taking my daughter. Watch me. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of resentment and broken promises. Finally, Samantha seemed to deflate. I never meant for it to happen this way, she said quietly. But it did happen. The question is, what are you going to do about it? She looked at Maddie, who was staring at her with a mixture of disappointment and betrayal. Honey, Just go, Mom. Maddie's voice was steady, but I could see the tears in her eyes. If you want to leave so badly, just go. Samantha finished packing in silence. When she was done, she stood by the door with her suitcases, looking lost and uncertain for the first time in months. This isn't over, Jack. Yes, it is. You made your choice. Now live with it. After she left, I held my daughter while she cried, but even as I comforted her, my mind was already working on the next phase of my plan. Samantha thought she could walk away clean, start over with Nathan, leave the wreckage of our family behind her. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The final confrontation came 3 weeks later, at the annual Founders' Day festival in the town square. It was the biggest social event of the year, with half the town in attendance. The perfect stage for what I had planned. Samantha had been living in the city, working at her new firm, playing house with Nathan. She'd filed for divorce, demanding half of everything, including the gym. She'd also been telling anyone who would listen that I was an abusive husband who'd driven her away with my jealousy and controlling behavior. But she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd underestimated how much people in our town valued loyalty, and she'd overestimated how much they cared about her success. I'd spent the 3 weeks since she left building my case, gathering evidence, and waiting for the right moment. Now, as I watched her and Nathan work the crowd at the festival, shaking hands and playing the part of the successful couple, I knew it was time. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, stepping up to the microphone on the main stage. The crowd quieted, turning to look at me. "I hope you're all enjoying the festival. I wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who supported my gym over the years. This community has been my family, and I appreciate everything you've done for me." Polite applause. I could see Samantha near the back of the crowd, her face tight with concern. I also wanted to address some rumors that have been going around about my personal life. Some of you may have heard that my wife and I are getting divorced. That's true. What you may not have heard is why. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. 3 months ago, my wife began an affair with her colleague, Nathan Morrison. She's been lying to me, to our daughter, and to all of you about the reason for our separation. She's claimed that I was controlling, abusive, that I held her back from achieving her dreams. I could see people turning to look at Samantha, who had gone pale. But the truth is simpler than that. She decided she wanted a different life, and she was willing to destroy our family to get it. She was planning to take our 17-year-old daughter away from her home, her friends, her school, to start fresh in the city with her new boyfriend. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. In a small town, family loyalty meant everything. Now, I'm not here to ask for your sympathy. I'm a grown man, and I can handle my wife's betrayal. But I won't stand by while she tries to rewrite history, to make herself the victim of circumstances she created. I pulled out a folder of documents, bank records, hotel receipts, text message screenshots, photos. Everything I've said can be verified. The affair, the lies, the secret bank account, the plan to abandon our daughter, it's all here, and it's all true. The crowd was getting restless now, angry. These were people who'd known Samantha for years, who'd watched her grow up, who'd celebrated her achievements. Her betrayal wasn't just personal, it was an attack on the values they held dear. So if anyone asks you why Jack and Samantha Peterson got divorced, you can tell them the truth. She chose ambition over family, lies over loyalty, and a younger man over the husband who supported her dreams for 15 years. I stepped back from the microphone and walked off the stage. Behind me, I could hear the crowd's reaction. Gasps, angry voices, people calling Samantha's name. But I didn't look back. I'd said what I came to say. The fallout was swift and brutal. By the next morning, the story had spread through every social media group, coffee shop, and workplace in town. Samantha's reputation was destroyed, her family was humiliated, and Nathan was facing questions from his new colleagues about his ethics and judgment. Samantha called me that afternoon, her voice shaking with rage. "How could you do that? In front of everyone? You've ruined me." I told the truth. If that ruined you, maybe you should have made better choices. You're vindictive and cruel, and I'm honest. Something you might want to try sometime. She hung up on me. Nathan tried a different approach, showing up at my gym the next evening. He looked terrible, hollow-eyed, unshaven, like he hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't. Please, just hear me out." I gestured to the ring in the center of the gym. "You want to talk? Let's talk like men. Put on some gloves. I'm not going to fight you. Then get out of my gym." He stood there for a moment, probably weighing his options. Finally, his shoulders sagged in defeat. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said quietly. "But it did, and now you get to live with the consequences." She told me you two were already separated, that the marriage was over, and you believed her because it was convenient, because it made what you were doing seem less wrong. He didn't have an answer for that. "Here's the thing, Nathan. You're young, you're good-looking, you've got a promising career. You could have had your pick of single women, but you chose to go after someone else's wife, someone else's family. That says something about your character. I love her. No, you don't. You love the idea of her, the successful lawyer, the older woman, the forbidden fruit. But love doesn't destroy families. Love doesn't lie and manipulate and scheme." I walked over to him, close enough that he had to look up to meet my eyes. "You want some advice? Stay away from my family. Stay away from my daughter. And the next time you decide you want something that belongs to someone else, remember how this ended." He left without another word. 6 months later, I was training a new student when Maddie burst into the gym, waving a letter. "Dad, I got in. Full scholarship." She'd been accepted to the state university with a full academic scholarship. All those years of good grades and community service had paid off. She could go anywhere she wanted, study anything she chose, and she wouldn't be burdened with student loans. "I'm proud of you, kiddo. Your mom will be thrilled." Maddie's expression darkened slightly. "Have you talked to her lately?" "Not since the lawyers finished the paperwork." The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago. Samantha had gotten half the house's equity and half of our savings, but the gym was mine. She'd also gotten supervised visitation with Maddie, a condition the judge had imposed after hearing about her attempt to relocate without considering her daughter's wishes. She and Nathan broke up, Maddie said quietly. Oh? Claire told me. Apparently the stress of everything got to them. Plus, Nathan's career never recovered from the scandal. He's working for a small firm now, making half what he used to make. I felt a brief moment of satisfaction, followed by something that might have been pity. Almost. And Mom? She's okay, I guess. Still at the new firm, but she's not happy. She keeps asking if I'll consider colleges closer to the city. What do you tell her? That I'm going where the best opportunities are, just like she taught me? Smart girl. She'd learned to navigate her mother's manipulations without letting them control her choices. Dad? Maddie's voice was thoughtful. Do you ever regret what you did? At the festival? I considered the question carefully. 6 months ago, I'd been a man whose wife was planning to leave him, whose family was being torn apart by lies and betrayal. Today, I was a single father with a successful business and a daughter who respected me enough to choose her own path. No, I said finally. I don't regret telling the truth. Your mother made her choices, and I made mine. The difference is, I can live with mine. That evening, after Maddie had gone to celebrate with her friends, I sat in my office at the gym, looking at the photos on my wall. Pictures of students who'd won tournaments, kids who'd learned discipline and confidence, adults who'd found strength they didn't know they had. This was my legacy. Not the marriage that had fallen apart, not the wife who'd chosen ambition over loyalty, but the lives I'd touched and the community I'd helped build. My phone buzzed with a text from Vic. Drink to celebrate Maddie's scholarship? On my way, I typed back. As I locked up the gym and walked to my truck, I thought about Samantha's joke from that night 6 months ago. She'd tried to make me the punchline, the fool who wasn't smart enough to keep up with her success. But she'd forgotten something important about jokes. Timing is everything, and the best punchlines come when you least expect them. I'd had the last laugh after all.